Greetings. The Portuguese have a phrase, tirar o cavalinho da chuva. Literally translated, it means take your horse out of the rain. For reasons I don't quite understand, it's the equivalent of don't get your hopes up. After 2 months of almost relentless torrential rain, many Brits were looking desperately for a bit of sunshine. Many of us would have made a beeline for the Iberian Peninsula, in the mistaken belief that the weather there will be any more clement. I was one of them. Yes, today we're going abroad for some sun, sea and oh yeah, I wish, soccer. God, even if I did get any, I'm not putting that on YouTube. Never mind, because 2 hours later we have arrived. Welcome to Porto. One of 2 major cities in Portugal, Porto has a fierce rivalry with Lisbon, a couple hundred miles south. Lisbon is often seen as the more beautiful of the 2 brothers, with its famous yellow streetcars, marvellous views and stunning architecture. But Porto also has plenty to offer. Which one do you prefer? Leave your answer in the comments. I won't actually read them because I really don't care, but you can talk among yourselves or something, I guess. Porto is called Porto because it's a port. There's not much else to say, really. It's a hilly city, but the views at the top are spectacular. The only sting in the tail is the temperature. It is much, much colder than it looks. Porto is most famous for its wonderful bridges. You can stand near the bridge and take in its magnificence, as I'm doing here. Or you can stand on the bridge and enjoy the views of the river. You pay your money, you take your choice. It's nice though, isn't it? Really beautiful.
Down like a lot more in America. You see 50%.
What? The game? Oh yeah, shit, yeah, the game. Let's get to the ground and meet the teams. But which ground? I haven't told you yet. This is probably the one you were thinking of, the magnificent Dragão Stadium, home of the world-famous FC Porto. But they moved their game to the day before my flight, so fuck them. Never mind, because there is another. Here is the Stadio da Bessa, home of the world-famous Boa Vista, one of the few teams to break the dominance of the Big Three and known throughout the world for their unique black and white checkered shirts. It's a bit deserted round here and quite shabby, and that's because they've just gone bust. Yes, life in the Portuguese league is tough. The vast majority of fans support either FC Porto, Benfica or Sporting, and a few more support Braga and Vitória Guimarães. Even in this football-mad country, it's slim pickings for everyone else. The other 13 teams in the Liga Portugal subsist on crowds that would worry most League 2 sides. Slightly north of Porto is the town of Vila do Conde. This is one of the most historic settlements in Portugal. Evidence of early settlement goes back 100,000 years, so this isn't just some sleepy commuter town. Many villagers were recruited during the Age of Discovery, which allowed the famous Vasco da Gama to open trade routes with the Far East, making Portugal a major imperial power. But perhaps the most impressive sight is St. Clara's Monastery, which affords wonderful views of the Rio Ave. And it's Rio Ave FC we're visiting today. They're playing in a league match against Famalicão, and it's nearly time for kick-off, so let's get to the ground and finally meet the teams. This is the Estadio dos Arcos. It's a much smaller stadium than it looks, with a capacity of about 6,000. Fans only occupy one side, which I'm afraid to say does make it feel a little bit soulless. But for Rio Ave, a bigger stadium really isn't necessary. As I said, if you're not one of the big three, then you're basically fighting for scraps. The club's top finish is 5th, and they've reached the Portuguese Cup final twice, losing, rather inevitably, to Porto and Benfica. In 2015 they had a run in the Europa League, locking horns with the likes of Dinamo Kiev and Steaua Bucharest. Based near the town of Braga, Famalicão's history is even less remarkable. Traditionally a second division side, the team fell down as far as the 5th tier in the late noughties before significant investment was brought in. Famalicão have never been to a cup final and never played in Europe. But that might be about to change. A look at the table shows that the visitors are just outside the European places, and with Vitória Guimarães nowhere in sight, there could well be a chance for one of the chasing pack. Rio Ave have had a disastrous set of results since the new year, and they're in real trouble. The top three have lost 4 games between them all season, and they're basically in a different world. As the teams emerge to a bit of a light show, let's go through the lineups. Rio Ave put up a spirited performance in their last game, a 1-0 defeat to Porto. Nevertheless, they make one change. Regular starter Tambel Monteiro comes back into the starting 11 and German Ole Pohlmann drops to the bench. Also on the bench is Englishman Nelson Abbey, who started his career at Reading. Top scorers Clayton and André Luiz, both Brazilian, were sold in the January transfer window, which goes a long way to explaining the club's dire predicament. Despite beating Casa Pia last time out, Famalicão make 4 changes. Joint top scorer Gustavo Sá is suspended, but number 17 Pinheiro comes back from suspension. Realpe, Rafa and Santos are given starts, and De Haas and Pedro Bondo are dropped entirely. The only other change is Garcia, who drops to the bench. So at 8:30 PM and with the temperature close to 0, the game begins. And I'm afraid to say that's pretty much where it ended. You're about to see why there are only 3 good teams in Portugal. It's a bit of a vicious cycle. Nobody supports the smaller clubs because they're pretty bad to watch, and they're bad to watch because nobody supports them. Nevertheless, Rio Ave dominate the first half. On 4 minutes they get a free kick. Just wide. For the next few minutes, the game takes on a leaden pace. Famalicão are nervous, their distribution is poor, and sloppy defending presents Rio Ave with a chance. Famalicão had brought an impressive number of fans, and they never stopped singing. As the first half drags on, Famalicão begin to calm down a little, and they limit Rio Ave to the occasional set piece. But at half-time there's no sign of a breakthrough. In the second half, Famalicão begin to show some of the form that has taken them near the European places. Now Rio Ave are the ones looking nervy. On 49 minutes, a let-off for the home side. Santos gets the ball 5 yards out and somehow hits the post. On 76 minutes, another let-off. Santo leaves it for Diaz, who has the entire goal to aim at. This did become an exceedingly dull game, and the fussy referee didn't help. But with time running out, Rio Ave come into the game a little more. With time almost up, there's a big chance. Substitute João Tome was brilliant when he came on, but he just misses here. And with Rio Ave just getting ready to take one last set piece, the referee decides we're out of time. Ah well, let's go back to Porto. Today's attendance was 2,500. For context, even Torquay United had a bigger gate. That's the size of the struggle facing clubs outside Portugal's Big Three, and that struggle was thrown into sharp relief today. Both teams were wasteful and there was very little cutting edge. It was the sort of game that had 0-0 written all over it. Oh well, I did tell you not to leave your horse in the rain. Bye bye.